technology. Yeah.
No problem.
Start.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you for your time answer the question. So the first question, the past policy perform sustainable financial resource contribute to the forest protection and development and livelihood improvement for the person who protect the forest. What is your opinion, the view of, on this policy?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. And I think first of all we need to congratulate Vietnam to be basically the first country who adopted a nationwide approach, a nationwide scheme for PFES. I think this needs to be underlined. Secondly, I think also it's important to mention that it is very special in Vietnam that it is institutionalized. So that means that it's even adopted not only countrywide but also authorized by the government and implemented also by the government. Here I think PFES is basically a very specific tool, and we have like 3 big objectives of the PFES scheme that are also, I would say, somehow unique, because one of the most important objectives is also to reduce the burden on the government budget for investing in forestry. So that is one very specific objective. The second one is also to mobilize social groups, to mobilize the population to work in forestry and to protect the forest. That's the third one. The second one, and the third one, of course, and most probably that is the most important, to make a significant contribution to poverty reduction.
Yeah, thank you. The second question, GIZ has been working together with the Vietnam forest sector for many years, particularly in the development and implementation of the PFES policy. So, which is gradually improving the living condition for the local people. So, how does GIZ support the cooperation between Vietnam and Germany?
Well, GIZ is a federal enterprise, and we basically work on behalf of the German government, and our big objective is basically to support our government to achieve objectives in the field of international cooperation for sustainable development. So everything what we do is always on behalf of the German government, and we are very happy that we could accompany the Vietnamese government for a very long time now. First of all, in 2007, to initiate the PFES pilots, policy, and also the scheme. I think it's important to underline the PFES scheme that was carried out in Son La. I think it was in 2008 and 2009. I was not here by that time, but it's a very famous scheme, and based on that scheme, basically PFES was then established on a nationwide approach. And also, as of today, we are still continuing to support PFES policy, PFES implementation at the national level, and also trying to contribute to improve the national PFES schemes. I would also like to mention that there are, of course, different projects supported by the German government, and one is working in Kamau. And this project, for example, is supporting a pilot on PFES application in aquaculture. So maybe then coming back again to your question, from our point of view, we have achieved successes when pilots are integrated into policy, are integrated into the legal framework, and that is the case basically for PFES. And we hope that we can continue to work on this topic and to improve continuously.
Yeah, As you know, beside yeah.
Rồi.
Okay. So you know just beside the achievement again by implemented the PES policy, what does SMART need to do to overcome current shortcomings as well as to implement the policy for more effective?
Well, I think first of all it's important to mention the success factors so far, because if you know what you have done well, then you of course could still continue doing this also in the future. And one of the success factors from what we see was the high political commitment for the PFES scheme in Vietnam. So I think in order to be also successful in the future, political commitment would also be needed in the future. And then maybe it's also important to stress that the PFES scheme is interesting because it provides incentives for different levels of all those who contribute to its implementation. So if we can maintain these incentives, I think then also it can further be developed and strengthened. For example, it reduces the pressure on the state budget. We already mentioned that, so that's important. It provides fees, like management fees, for the different levels who are implementing it. And of course, it provides income for the rural populations. So everybody somehow can gain something in the scheme. So I think that's important. And also a very important success factor is that we provided, or the government provided, very clear guidance on how to implement the PFES policy. And so if it's clear, not too many open questions, it can also be implemented easily. So if now there are modifications, of course there had to be clear guidance on how to implement this in the future. Nevertheless, you were asking for what to improve. Of course, you can always be better, you can always improve, and we would say the monitoring of the PFES scheme, or let's say the monitoring of the services, is something that really needs improvement in order to really be sure that the PFES scheme provides the results that it is supposed to provide. Secondly, you know, we have many beneficiaries in the PFES system. I think they are estimated to be over 500,000. So basically smallholder forest owners, which receive not very important amounts of money, but nevertheless receive money. And the question is, what is the most efficient way on how to distribute the money, for example, to them? So here we can share experiences from GIZ and KfW projects where in the past with saving accounts we were able to really improve the transaction costs or reduce the transaction costs and make the system very transparent and very, very easy to go. So maybe we could think of a pilot on using bank accounts for PFES payments. That's the second possible way maybe of improving. And if there is a third one, of course it's always interesting to extend the system. So what are other environmental services, for example in the field of climate change, in terms of CO2, where we could extend the PFES system. I think that's already a lot, but maybe that gives us some ideas where we can look to in the future.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.